Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be here with you to present Viewpoint 1. Viewpoint 1 is that we need lots of people chosen and developed properly. And what I'd like to do is to begin with an opening statement that is an excerpt from a recent article published in IEEE Security and Privacy magazine by Professors Hoffman, Torregas, and myself. A holistic approach to developing the cybersecurity workforce is needed, based on careful integration of workforce development strategies into a plan that involves educators, career professionals, employers, and policymakers. A critical element of a robust cybersecurity strategy is having the right people at every level to identify, build, and staff the defenses and the responses. And that is, by many accounts, the area where we are the weakest. In my 15 minutes, what I'd like to do is to elaborate on this statement in order to emphasize three key points. First, let me elaborate on the opening statement that we need lots of people chosen and developed properly. What do I mean by lots of people? Well, most industry experts agree with the general idea that was put forth by Gosler a couple of years ago that says we need 10 to 30,000 individuals to join the cybersecurity workforce. Now, 10 to 30,000 is a very large range, and I will tell you quite honestly that there is not a specific agreement on exactly what number we need, but there is general agreement that we need a significant influx of individuals into the cybersecurity workforce. The next part of that statement is chosen. And it's this part of the statement where we begin to ask deeper questions that say, chosen by whom? Should the individuals who join the cybersecurity workforce be self-selected? Should they be chosen by some other body? And at what point do they choose to join the cybersecurity workforce? Is this a decision that is made in college, or is this something that needs to happen or a decision that needs to be made prior to entering college? As with most STEM disciplines that have a strong need for technical skills, mathematics skills, the earlier that individuals identify their desire to join the cybersecurity workforce, the better. And in order to do that, they must be aware of the different career fields that exist within the cybersecurity workforce. So awareness is key. When we think about developing, we have to break this part of the statement into two sections. The first is developed post-employment. And by post-employment, I mean once an individual has already entered the workforce, how do they can maintain currency through certifications, through professional development activities in order to meet the demands of an ever-changing cybersecurity workforce environment. The other is development pre-employment. University training, community college training, even high school, secondary school training. When we think about post-employment development, we begin to think about career paths and how the career path for a cybersecurity professional ought to look. Quite honestly, we're still figuring that out. One of the main bodies that is looking into the development of the cybersecurity workforce and the career paths surrounding that workforce is the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education based out of the National Institutes for Standards and Technology, NIST. The NIST cybersecurity framework outlines 7 different specialty areas and associated KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities: securely provision, operate and maintain, protect and defend, investigate, operate and collect, analyze, and support. And of these 7 different specialty areas, they have broken down the requirements, both pre-employment development requirements, things that the individuals need to have in order to get into these types of career fields, and also post-employment. What types of skills and abilities do the individuals need to continue to maintain in order to be successful in their careers? This notion of proper development, whether we're talking about pre-employment or post-employment, leads me to my second point, and that is that a holistic approach to developing the cybersecurity workforce is needed. By holistic, I mean the purposeful integration of workforce development strategies into a plan that involves educators, career professionals, employers, and policymakers. The motivation for a holistic approach is called for by individuals who are suggesting that we need a paradigm shift. And this paradigm shift is a shift that will adjust our current emphasis from students as customers to an emphasis on society as customers that treats cybersecurity as a public good. The paradigm shift that moves us into the realm of treating cybersecurity as a public good necessitates a coordinated effort and calls for a comprehensive and coordinated effort to develop, and by develop I mean educate and train, cybersecurity professionals are broad. Everyone from various task force that have been commissioned by the federal government to organizing industry associations to individual researchers who have been studying the problem are all suggesting that we need to think about cybersecurity and the challenges that cybersecurity brings in a different way. If we continue to move in a way that treats students as customers, where we are not thinking about the needs of the problem space, we will inevitably continue to have gaps in our development of individuals to attack the problem. And in fact, much of the criticism of current efforts is not that they are individually deficient, but it's that they suffer from an underinvestment and fragmented approach. This fragmented approach, again, is one that leaves gaps in the system and allows us to struggle with how we can maintain a holistic perspective that attacks the problem space in general and doesn't allow for cracks and gaps in the system. In order to minimize these gaps, to reduce overlapping efforts, and support metric-based assessments, which are critical in the development of an effective workforce development strategy, the coordinated effort must be driven by a framework that integrates workforce development strategies, and that this strategy must include educators, career professionals, employers, and policymakers. The idea of a holistic perspective also leads me to my third and final point. But for this point, I would like to reframe this notion of holistic into one that considers the multidisciplinary nature of the cybersecurity threat and the importance of the human element. My third point, therefore, examines the last portion of the opening statement, and that is that a critical element of a robust cybersecurity strategy is having the right people at every level to identify, build, and staff the defenses and responses, and that is, by many accounts, where we are the weakest. To address this part of the statement, I would like to end with two quotes that highlight the critical importance of the human element in our fight to secure cyberspace. The first quote is from the Director of National Intelligence, Mr. James Clapper, and it is from his testimony to the Senate Intelligence Committee given on January 31st of 2012. And I quote, "The cybersecurity threat is one of the most challenging ones we face. We foresee an environment in which emerging technologies are developed and implemented before security responses can be put into place." And the emphasis of this quote is that technical solutions are not sufficient. Alone, we cannot fight this cybersecurity battle by simply looking to develop technologies that will meet the emerging and ever advancing threats. Technical solutions aren't sufficient to solve the problem. They are certainly a necessary condition and must in fact be the driver of our approach. But we need to have other strategies in our toolkit that rely on understanding the human element, understanding the organizational changes that must be put into place in order to effectively address the threat. The second quote is taken from a recent issue of Daedalus, which is the academic journal of the National Academies of Science, and it was published in 2011, I believe September, by Deirdre Mulligan and Dan Schneider. And this quote is, Computer scientists and their funders are investing heavily in technological means for improving cybersecurity. But technological solutions are useless if they are not deployed or if operating practices allow attackers to circumvent them. And I'll leave you with this quote to again emphasize that our approach to developing the cybersecurity workforce must include one that not only invites educators, professional career development individuals, industry officials, and policymakers to the table, but it also means that we must consider the technical and the non-technical aspects of the cybersecurity threat. How good is a firewall if we are unable to change the behavior of the individuals within the organization who bring their personal devices in and plug in behind the firewall? Not very effective. So we must consider both the technical and the non-technical as we move forward in our holistic approach to developing the cybersecurity workforce.